Pokedex, guys. It's going to be super fun to build. I hope you're excited. We're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff like connecting to an API, bringing information in from an API, creating some custom objects, some custom subclasses, and also implementing some really cool animations along the way like you see there. So it's a lot of really cool stuff that are like some cool tips and tricks, as well as some really important fundamentals, sort of jam-packed into this beginner level project. We're also going to be implementing this using the model view controller framework. I'll be explaining that in detail. The source code is 100% free. It comes with a lot of cool extensions that I personally reuse in all of my projects. So I hope you guys are ready to get started. Let's go ahead, open up Xcode, and get started with our project. Okay guys, so I have Xcode open. Get started with a single view app. I'm going to call this Pokedex MVC create. Okay, so what we're going to do to start is go ahead and create a couple groups. So go here and you can either right click and hit new group, or you can just hit Command Option N on that main folder, and we're going to make 5 new groups. First one is going to be called model. Second one, view, controller, service, and then utils. Okay, so what we're going to do now is hop into this controller file, right click on that, hit new file, Swift file, hit next, and we're going to call this Pokedex controller. Okay, so this is going to be our main controller for our app with all the Pokemon displayed. So go ahead and say import UI kit. We're going to say class Pokedex controller, and this is going to be a UI collection view controller. Make these marks here. Type out view.load under your init mark, and then you say super.view.load. We're going to say view.background color equals .blue for now, and that's all we're going to do for now. Go to this view controller file and just hit delete, move to trash. And now we need to set this as our root view controller. I don't use storyboards, so we're going to be doing that in our app delegate. So if you guys have never done this before, this is how you set your root view controller programmatically. Let me exit out of this. So we're going to say window equals UI window, window.makeKey invisible. And we want this to be embedded in a navigation controller. So we're going to say let nav controller equal UI navigation controller with a root view controller. Of our Pokedex controller. And because this is a collection view controller, we need to pass in a collection view layout. So let's go ahead and do that really quick. We're going to say let layout equal UI collection view flow layout. And then here, go back to our Pokedex controller, and we're going to create this parameter, collection view layout, and pass in that layout constant we just created. And then all we do is say window.rootViewController equals that nav controller. Okay? So if we go and run our code right now, we should be seeing that blue background color, and it should be embedded in a navigation controller. So let me get out of this. Bring our simulator over here. So it's launching. Okay, we have it embedded in the navigation controller, but our background color is black. And that's because we need to go back here and say collection view dot background color equals dot blue. But we can just go ahead and say white now that we know it's working. And let's go back into our Pokedex controller, go down here, and we're going to make a mark. We can call this helper functions. And we're going to say function configure view components. And this is a function we're going to write to configure our UI stuff. And we do that so our view did load method doesn't get super crowded. So just go ahead and copy and paste that guy, and then we're gonna call this function up in view did load. Okay, so now what we want to do is start setting up our nav bar title or our navigation bar up here. So we need that pink color that we have in our Pokedex. So let me actually go ahead and get our completed application running here really quick so we can see what we need to do. Okay, waiting. Okay, so we want to make our navigation bar look like this. So let's start with what we need to do to get this color, okay? So I want to create a file in our utils folder. So you can go there and hit Command N, and it's going to create a new file. Hit Next, and we're going to say extensions. So we're going to want to import UI kit, and we're going to say extension for UI color, okay? And I'm going to copy and paste this function in here that I have, and I'm going to explain it with you guys right now. So you go ahead and pause the video and type this out. Or what this function does is when we call this RGB guy and we pass in these red, green, blue values, it's going to return a color for us. And we make this extension because we don't want to have to do this divided by 255 every time, which is what the core functionality of UI color is. So now we're going to make this function called main pink. So we're going to say static func main pink, and it's going to return UI color. And we're going to call this function up here that we just created. So we're going to say return UI color.rgb. And now we can just pass in these red, green, blue values, and it's going to be 221, 94, and 86. So now every time we call this main ping function, it's going to give us back this color. So let's go ahead and see how that works. So we're going to go here and we're going to say navigation controller dot navigation bar dot bar tint color equals dot main pink. And then we're going to say navigation controller dot navigation bar dot bar style equals dot black. So what this sets the background color to pink, and saying the bar style is dot black gives us that white status bar, and it's going to give us the white text color for our title too. So now we're going to say navigation item dot title equals Pokedex. And now we need to create this bar button item over here. So we're going to say navigation item dot write bar button item equals UI bar button item, and just open up a parenthesis there and select this option here, bar button system item, say dot search target as self. Our selector is going to be called show search bar, and then we need to say navigation item dot write bar button item dot tint color equals dot white. So let's see, what's our error? We need to create this function now, so go ahead and just copy that, go up here, create a mark, say selectors, and then you're going to say at Objective-C func. Oops, what that's happened? Paste that. Oops. Just show search bar. Damn it, my bad, guys. Func show search bar. And here we can just say print 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4. Doesn't matter. Okay, now if we run this, it should succeed, and then we're going to see that this is looking pretty good, right? So we get our title, our search bar. If we hit that button, we see in our console it's printing 1, 2, 4, and everything is looking nice. So, oh, one more thing we need to do. We need to say navigation controller dot navigation bar. So just go ahead and copy this, and then say is translucent equals false. So you notice that this is kind of like faded. It doesn't look exactly like this. And that's because the bar is translucent right now. So go ahead and change that up, and that should be good to go. So let's see, now we want to start setting up our collection view, right? So let's go ahead and start by creating our cell file. So go up to view, our view folder, hit Command N, new file, and then we're going to say Pokedex cell. So import UI kit, class, Pokedex cell, and it's going to be a UI collection view cell. And then let's make our marks properties, oops, and then say init here. Make sure you get that frame option and do your super init call as well. Now it's going to ask us to implement this required initializer. Just go ahead and hit that. And that's our cell file for now. So go back into our Pokedex controller, and now we're going to start writing out the functionality to set up this collection view. So I make extensions for it. So just go ahead and do this just to keep my code organized. It's really developer preference. You don't have to do this. You could implement it in your main class, but I do it just to keep things, it keeps things neater in my opinion. So we're going to go here and we're going to say number of items in section, and let's just return 6 for now. And then we're going to go down here and say cell for item at. And now we're going to say let cell equal collection view.dequeue reusable cell. Let's create this reuse identifier. So go up to the top, say private let reuse identifier equal Pokedex cell. And then we can go ahead and pass in that reuse identifier there, pass an index path, and say as exclamation point Pokedex cell. Okay, and then we're going to say return cell. Right, so that's looking good. Now we're going to create another extension for our collection view layout. So let's go ahead and run this right now. Actually, we can't, it would crash. So go back to our configure view components guy. We need to register this collection view cell. So say collection view dot register, and then say Pokedex cell dot self. You have to add that dot self in there, and then pass in that reuse identifier we created up at the top. So it's better to create this reuse identifier. It's better programming practice because it only makes you create this string once, and then every time we want access to that string, we just pass in this reuse identifier constant that we created. So it helps minimize the possibility of human error. So now go ahead and run this and we'll see what it's looking like. I'm not sure what it's going to look like because we haven't set up our size. Yeah, so we have to set up the size for each one of our items. So let's go ahead and do that now. So create another extension of Pokedex controller, and this is going to conform to or inherit from the UI collection view delegate flow layout. Okay, so let's go size for item at, and here we want to return a CG size. So and we want our cells to be square. So we're going to create a width, and it's going to look like this. We're going to say let width equal view.frame.width minus 36 divided by 3. And then we're going to say return CG size, and width and height right here, just say width, and the height is going to be width as well because you guys remember we want this to be a square. So now let's just make our cell background color like blue or something. So let me expand this a little bit and say cell.background color equals .blue. So if we run that, we should see some cells coming up now. Yeah, so we do, perfect. Couple more things we need to do. So we want this to have some spacing at the top like you see here. And then we want some insets on the left and right. So we have like 8 pixels here, here, and then 32 on the top. So we can call this function here that's called inset for section at. and it's going to ask us to return a UI edge inset. So just go ahead and say return UI edge insets. And the top, like I said, is 32, left 8, bottom 8, right 8. So that's going to give us the spacing that we need there. And then we want to have like that spacing actually looks pretty good. So leave that there. And what else do we need to do? We need to round the edges of these cells. So let's just hop into our Pokedex cell, and you can say self.layer.corner radius equals 10. So that's how you round stuff, guys. It basically just like cuts it off and gives it those nice rounded edges. So if we go ahead and run this now, our collection view should be looking pretty good. Oops, wrong one. So that's looking really good there. Now what I want to do is we're going to set up these collection view cells with this image and this text view down here. And that's going to be the end of this video. I don't want this to get too long, and that's going to be a good cutoff point, I think. So let's go ahead and start doing that. So hop into your Pokedex cell class, and we're going to create this image view. So let me get this up in my completed project really quick. Okay, so we're going to say let image view colon oops UI image view equal open close bracket, and then here you're going to put open close parentheses like this, and we're going to say let IV equal UI image view and just return IV, right? So this is how you create a property or a view component programmatically. Like I said, I don't use storyboards. There's a lot of advantages to creating stuff programmatically, and there's a lot of disadvantages to using storyboards. There's tons of video out there with tons of information on it. I'm not going to get into it here. We're just going to keep going. So I'm going to say iv.background color equals .group table view background, and iv.content mode equals .scale aspect fit. Okay, so that's going to be our image view, and here we're going to go down here, create our helper functions guy, configure view components. And guys, this isn't necessary. You could put all this code in this init method. I just don't, because I think it can get messy. So I just do it in this function and then call my function up here. So let's keep going. We want to create this name container view. And then once we do that, we're going to add this text label, and that's going to be it. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to say, one sec. Okay. Let name container view UI view equal this, let view equal UI view, return view. And do this. So once you get the hang of this, it becomes pretty easy to do. So we're going to say view.background color equals .main pink. And you guys will notice that it's really helpful to have access to this main pink through this function, because every time we want to access it, that's all we have to type out. So that's why it's helpful to create that extension there. And then we're going to say return view. So now we need to create the name label to add to that. So it's going to look like this. We're going to say let name label UI label equal this, let label equal UI label, return label, and then we're going to say label.text color equals .white, and for now we can just say label.font equals UI font .system font of size 16, and we'll give it some text for now. Say label.text equals Bulbasaur, right? So now we want to add this name label to this name container view, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to say view.add subview name label. And then, so this actually needs to be a lazy var. So you can't add subviews in like this when it's a constant because you're mutating this thing by adding things to it. So we're going to call this a lazy variable. Um, so that's how we solve that problem. That error should go away. And really quick, to add something into a subview, we want to center this on the X and Y axes. So I'm actually going to create an extension to do that. So hop in here and we're going to say extension UI view. And this function is pretty helpful. You guys can reuse this in all of your projects. I'm going to copy and paste it in here really quickly. So it's going to look like this. I'm not going to type it out just because it's going to take too much time. So just go ahead and copy and paste this code once you've downloaded the source project, or pause the video and type it out. So this is going to allow us to center a view component in some view on the X and Y axes. So we're going to see how that works now. So go back up here and we're going to say, sorry, Pokedex cell. Then we're going to say view.center in view, and then we're just going to pass in the view here because we want to center it in this name view, right? So then now we need to add our other subviews, okay? So I'm actually going to create another function to do that, and then I'm going to copy and paste in here just to save some time. So now we need to add all those subviews into to each one of our collection view cells. So hop back in here, and this is the function that we're going to be using to do that. It's a lot. You guys, I recommend copy and pasting it. I'm going to go over it really briefly right now. So it basically just takes in a bunch of parameters: top anchor, left, bottom, right, top spacing, left, bottom, and right, and then a width and a height, right? And then this is all the logic that it goes through to set those constraints. So this is how we're going to set our constraints programmatically, right? So we're going to see how that's used right now. So like I said, just go ahead and copy and paste that function in there. You can reuse this in all of your projects. It's a super helpful function. Same with this guy and same with this guy. These are really helpful extensions to have as a programmer. I reuse them in every single project that I make. So let's hop back in here. And we need to start adding these subviews. So let's see what that's going to look like. So we're going to say, go down here, we're going to say add subview, image view. Then we're going to say image view.anchor. Let's go ahead and build this project because we're not getting access to those functions right now. So hit Command B. And now when we say image view.anchor, it's going to show up, right? So then we're going to say top anchor, left anchor, bottom anchor. No, sorry, bottom is going to be no. And I'll explain what we're doing here in a second, guys. Then right anchor, padding top, 0, padding left, 0, 0, 0. The width and the height, the width you can say 0, and the height is going to be self.frame.height minus 32. Okay, so what the heck did we just do, right? So essentially, we told our function here that we want to add this subview, which is this image view that we see here, and we want to pin it to the top, the left, and the right, right? And then because we pinned it to the left and the right, it intrinsically figures out the height, so we can just say 0 for that. And then the height, because it doesn't have a bottom anchor, it only has a top anchor, we do need to set a height. So essentially, we're just setting the height so that it stops like right there, right? So now we want to add in, actually, let's go ahead and just run this function, or sorry, run our project to see what it looks like. Make sure everything is okay. Right, so that's looking really good, right? So this is our image view getting added in there. We need to add in some code to make that image view also have that rounded corner radius, but this stuff is looking really good. So let me see what that is. So just go and say self.clips to bounds equals true, and that's going to solve that, because you guys will notice that that image view has pointed edges, and we don't want that. We want it to mask to the bounds of the of the cell. So that's going to solve that problem. Now we just need to add our name container view. So we're going to say add subview name container view, and then name container view dot anchor, and we want to anchor this guy it's going to be nil at the top because it doesn't matter what it is, the top anchor is. We just want to anchor it to the left, the right, and the bottom, right? So let's do that. So we're going to say left anchor, bottom anchor. And when we say bottom anchor, it's actually referring, and left anchor and all this stuff, it's referring to the bottom and left and all that stuff of the cell. So now we'll say right anchor, padding top 0, 0, 0, 0, width is 0, and the height is 32, right? Because we made this guy minus 32, which leaves 32 pixels of space for our view. That's why our height is 32 there. So now we can go ahead and run this, and it should be looking pretty good. And then we're going to stop this video here. So that's looking really good. Let's see. This didn't work. Huh. Let me see why. Name container view. Oh, so we need to say name label dot center in view that guy. So now that's going to show up and we should be good to go. Sweet. So that's looking really good, guys. And we noticed that those all the edges are rounded nicely, and this stuff is looking really good. So I'm going to call that video here. In the next video, we are going to get into actually bringing in the Pokemon to each one of our cells. And then we're going to continue on with, and that's going to involve connecting to an API and stuff. So that's going to be pretty cool. Actually, no, I'm going to continue with the UI. We'll see what we do in the next video. It's kind of undetermined right now, to be honest. So yeah, that's it for the first video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.